There we go. Welcome, everybody. I'm assuming you can see my screen at this point. Give me a thumbs up. Thank you, Sarah. Appreciate your being here this afternoon and taking your lunch hour. This is an informational session for the Focus Impact Fellows Program for 2021-22. Wow, that's amazing. I am Wally Sieward. I'm the director of the Focus Impact Fellows Program, as well as the director of civic engagement for Focus St. Louis. So my role at Focus St. Louis is running the Impact Fellows Program, as well as a lot of the community partnerships, a lot of the civic partnerships that Focus does with other organizations and civic engagement all over the city. For instance, we're partners with the next Racial Equity Summit, which is coming up this summer. That's going to be a really exciting event. We just finished up the second of a series of mayoral forums. We had the first one post the primary. That's what I do at Focus, and I am glad you're all here today to learn a little bit more about the Impact Fellows piece of the puzzle. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to spend 20 minutes. I'm going to talk my way through the program a little bit. Then we're going to hear from three folks, two of whom are alums of the program, and one of whom is currently taking part in the program. Welcome, Sarah, Jarrett, and Dana. Really appreciate you all being here today. And then we can open it up to questions. And then at the end, I've got a little fun exercise for us to do, just to get a little taste of what it's like to be an Impact Fellow. So starting off about the Impact Fellows program. So this is our agenda. We're going to, like I said, we're going to do that Impact Fellows presentation. We're going to do the alumni testimonials, little Q&A, and then a project prioritization exercise. All right, so the Focus Impact Fellows program. As you probably know, Focus St. Louis has a pretty broad spectrum of programs, starting from Youth Leadership St. Louis, which is high school level, Emerging Leaders, which is kind of young professionals. We've got Women in Leadership, and of course, our flagship program, which has been around for a very long time, Leadership St. Louis. All of those amazing programs, their goal is learning and connecting. Their goal is for you to come in as a leader, learn new things about the city, connect with new networks, and learn new skills and knowledge, all of which is incredibly useful. What happened was, running these programs over the years, we often had folks coming back to Focus and saying, okay, so you've given me all these skills and networks. We really want to know what the next step is. So we think about Impact Fellows as graduate school for leaders. Instead of coming in and learning learning new skills, although you'll do that along the way, and meeting new people, although you'll do that along the way as well, the goal here is bring your skills, bring your network, bring your knowledge, and let's actually apply those to an issue in the St. Louis region to make an impact and make a difference. The first cohort of the Impact Fellows, which was modeled off programs in other parts of the country, was in 2016. And the subjects that the Impact Fellows deal with on a year-by-year basis vary a little bit. So that very first year, they took the Forward Through Ferguson report as a whole report, as a subject for the fellows. After that, we did in 2017 and 2018, we did 2 years on healthcare, the healthcare safety net in the St. Louis region through a racial equity lens. So the healthcare safety net are, of course, those healthcare resources that help those that are underinsured, uninsured, and have access barriers to healthcare. That's everything, of course, from Gateway to Better Health to the federally qualified healthcare centers, to, of course, the emergency rooms, the urgent care, all of those spaces where folks who have difficulty getting access get access to healthcare. So that was 2 years in 17 and 18. In 2019, we switched to the subject of workforce development as it relates to decarceration. So thinking about jobs and job training and job development as it relates to folks who are justice involved, who are second chance citizens returning from incarceration, and so that subject took us to a lot of fascinating places. Last year and this year, we have kind of opened things up really broadly because we see the work that needs to be done in St. Louis at this point really is about the core crisis that we're all facing together, right? The pandemic crisis, the economic crisis, the crisis of racism in our region, all of those together they overlap in so many ways that we really wanted to open up the subject for that last year and this year. But there's two core concepts every single year. Number one, the goal is to apply skills, networks, and knowledge to current issues. And number two is that racial equity lens, absolutely crucial for the region. The who we're looking for Impact Fellows are established leaders. The Impact Fellows are interested in working collaboratively across silos and with community partners. That means that folks that are willing to step outside of their comfort zone a little bit, right? And work with somebody from a sector that they've never connected with before, and work together to understand maybe a small nonprofit in an area that they haven't worked in before. This is for folks that want to stretch themselves, folks that want to understand on the ground what change making means in St. Louis. So this isn't just a panel conversation about broad strokes. This is follow up with those community partners, move yourself into their seat, sit where they're sitting, find out what the current challenges and current opportunities are on workforce development, on healthcare, on community development, on economic development, on all of these subjects, housing, transportation, all of these issues. Get into the nitty-gritty with the folks that are actually out there making the change. The program is a 9-month program. It's really 10 months. I should say 10 months. It stretches a little bit into June. It's 1 or 2 full-day sessions monthly from September through May. So that gives you and let's talk through what that program, or let's talk about candidates for a moment first. So we think of Impact Fellows, as I said, as a kind of graduate school for leadership. So we want the folks coming into the program to be established leaders. Now, we, however, take a wide view of what it means to be an established leader. Right? We didn't call it an executive program because we don't want to say only if you're in the executive suite are you a leader. We understand leadership to come at many levels and in many different ways. But we are looking for you to have that leadership experience in some ways under your belt and have held those significant roles of responsibility in your community. A desire to dig into details on regional issues. Like I said, not just that panel conversation for 90 minutes, but dig in. What exactly is it that's holding up your budget? What exactly is it that's stopping you from being able to implement this program? How exactly is the environment in St. Louis and the issues that we're dealing with being a challenge to you and an opportunity? Have a strong sense of personal leadership. These projects that the fellows do, which we'll talk a little bit more about, which I think I need to speed up as I'm seeing my timing, are very much require that kind of personal sense of leadership. Aspiration to work collaboratively with your peers outside your own sector. You intend to utilize diverse perspectives, experiences, and knowledge within your own organization, and committed to attending all scheduled program days. Those are important attributes for candidates. This is the program schedule. It's also available online on the Impact Fellows page, but just wanted to, you don't have to write all this down, just wanted to give you a sense of what that schedule looks like. As you can see, it's approximately 1 or 2 days per month. We generally try to do Fridays. We throw in a few Saturdays in there just to keep your employers happy. So we're not always taking up work days. But this gives you a sense of what that schedule looks like a little bit. There's a lot of program benefits for participants, right? Deep diving into specific issues in the St. Louis region in ways you wouldn't have been able to do otherwise. Unparalleled exposure to organizations and individuals working on racial equity and social issues. Just to give you an example, When we were working on criminal justice reform, we had Circuit Attorney Kim Gardner, we had Wesley Bell. We got to tour the Justice Center. We got to tour I got a tour of Potosi Maximum Security Prison. Like there's all kinds of ways that we get to dig into these issues that you might not get to otherwise. Improved collaboration, communication, decision-making, strategic thinking skills, deep and lasting relationships, greater sense of personal commitment and responsibility to the region. I think those are all benefits that we've seen fellows have in the past. Now, a few details about those projects. That's always the kind of mysterious piece for folks. So here's the way the schedule goes. The first 5 months of the program are learning and exploring. That's where we're going to bring those expert briefers in. We're going to do those site visits so that we can understand what the context is for these particular issues that we're talking about. We can't come in and kind of invent something new in a vacuum, right? What we need to do is understand what the environment is, who's doing what work in that environment, what space is there for some fellows to come in and be value added and work towards some solutions. So that's that first 5 months. Then there's a big switchover. And that happens in December. We call it Filament Day because when we're in person, which hopefully we will be next year, we go to Filament downtown, huge warehouse space where we get to spend the day moving from thinking about doing to doing. That day, you have to pick a project. You pick a community partner because each project must have a community partner. You can't work in a vacuum. That community partner are the ones that have the community connections you're going to need to get that real community feedback to find out whether your project is the thing that the community actually needs. They're the ones that are going to create the context around what the community needs. And they're the ones that are going to own the project once the fellowship is done so that it can live on and continue to work. Each project needs to be doable in the time allotted. That's roughly 20 hours per fellow per month for those last 5 months. So for a team of 5, that's roughly 500 man-hours into a project. They need that community partner. It needs to be impactful, and it needs to have that equity lens. Examples of projects past can be found here. Oops, and I will also put that link in the chat for folks here in just a moment. Let me keep talking for a moment. So we are, all right, so I'm on time. This is a project example from the past. I wanted to give you one sense of a kind of project. This is the Just Talent project from 2019-20. The community partners were the Transformative Workforce Academy at SLU, the Missouri Department of Corrections, and the Missouri Department of Workforce Development. The fellows that were involved are listed there. And what this project did is it created a resource and a playbook for employment professionals. These are HR professionals in companies or employment professionals, say at an employment agency, state employment agencies. The playbook was for them on how to work with justice-involved individuals and second chance citizens when it comes to employment. How do you, for instance, in an interview, give that prospective employee a chance to tell their story about whatever justice involvement is on their CV without kind of prying into and asking for private information? But give them a chance to actually tell their story. Don't just ignore it, for instance. What about insurance issues? What about federal subsidies? All of that is covered in this playbook, and it is housed at the Transformative Workforce Academy. And a nice update from this year, we just found out that that Transformative Workforce Academy has received grant funding to actually develop that content into a video curriculum for employment professionals. So we're pretty excited about that. Finally, the last piece of the puzzle here is kind of tuition and scholarships. So tuition for the program is $3,500. That is often, though not always, covered by employers. We will work with anyone that wants to join the program Please don't consider the tuition to be an immediate barrier. We will figure out how to do this. There is financial aid. We do payment plans. We work with you to try to make this happen pretty extensively. We want to work and make sure that that's not a barrier for folks to participate. All right, so this is contact information. This is me. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me. Our website there is there as well with the information, with more information about this year's program. And I've been talking at you for a while now. So what I'm going to do is be quiet for a moment. And I am going to ask, and maybe I'll do it in chronological order. So Sarah, I'm going to start with you. Our alums to talk a little bit, what I asked them to talk a little bit, why they joined the Impact Fellows, what their experience was like, what they got out of it, and why they might recommend others to take part in the program. So Sarah, I'm going to hand it over to you, and you probably got about 5 minutes if that works for you. And I'm going to stop
Find my mute button here. All right. Hey everybody, so my name's Sarah Willie, and I'm still here in St. Louis. I did the Impact Fellows in the 2018-2019 class. We were focused on healthcare with a racial equity lens that year. And thinking back to what drew me into the program when I was kind of where you all are right now and thinking about, is this a thing I want to invest my time and money in? In my case, my employer was not paying, so it was an investment that I was considering. What drew me in was that I think of myself as a leader. I thought of myself as a leader already. And so a leadership program that just focuses on teaching leadership wasn't as exciting for me at that point in my life, because I felt like, well, I have a personal commitment to never stop learning and I always want to continue to learn. I also really want to make sure that I'm putting knowledge into practice, because I think knowledge only really has value when you get to use it and make a difference. And so this program seemed like the perfect blend of continuing to grow and be on that journey of self-growth, but also be able to give something back. And I mean, it's right there in the name, right? Make an impact on my community, because I think it's important to leave the world better than we found it. And I was also very interested in the topic that happened to be the topic the year I was doing it. My career started out in healthcare and I had moved on from that space. And I wanted to make sure that I still had some connection to that. I wanted to have more experiences with that space because I'm passionate about it, even though it's not where I was working anymore. So that drew me in. And for me, feeling like I was going to come out of the program being able to say that I learned a bit more and that I made a difference was what I hoped to get out of it. And I think the mark of a really good experience is when you can go in with those sort of measurable things that you're going to hope to have seen yourself get out of it at the end. And you can see that happen and also be surprised and see some additional things happen that you hadn't counted on or hadn't been able to prepare for. And so the takeaway that I got, besides those things I was looking for in the program that I wasn't expecting, was it really taught me a lot about group collaboration, which of course is a big thing for most of us in our work and maybe in things we do outside of work. So for me, it was this situation where you're thrown together. I knew zero of the people who came into the same cohort as me, and getting paired up into groups with people who you've had a few months to try to get to know, and then having to trust each other enough to figure out how to work together and start from scratch, right? You don't have any group norms established. You're not all in an organization that has existed and had a process before you each individually got there. So to have to build that from scratch and have just a few months to accomplish objectives was a really great experience that has led me to try different things in my life since. One of the immediate things that it led to was me reaching out to different people who I knew only slightly and talk about how can we collaborate on maybe doing some conference sessions and speaking at some of the professional conferences in our field. It has led to some great connections now that I've moved into a self-employed career, me being able to collaborate with others in that work. And it's made me so much more comfortable and confident in the group work I'm currently doing in the doctorate program that I'm enrolled in. So I'm really grateful that I had that experience and kind of saw what it looks like when it happens right, and can kind of take that confidence with me into those other arenas. And I lastly want to give just a little quick advice, since some of you hopefully will decide to partake in the program. And my advice to you is to be flexible and open to the process, that things are always kind of an ebb and flow. And my group in particular had a lot of unexpected obstacles arise. And it's really important to just be ready to kind of roll with it. And the other big thing is communication. You're going to just really want to make sure that you're in constant communication with the team that you're working with Wally, with the community partners that you're paired with, because as long as you can communicate strongly, I think you can make it through whatever the program throws at you.
Thank you, Sarah. Yeah, Sarah, your all's project group was a perfect case study in, okay, we ran into some walls and we had to adjust and pivot and had some really amazing outcomes, access to things, to hospital data for some of the community organizations that they never would have had access to. A lot of really interesting kind of cross-sector collaboration that happened there. Thank you, Sarah. Really appreciate it. So as I said, I'm going to ask these three to talk, and then I'm going to open it up for questions that you all have. Jared, I'm going to come to you next. You were a 2019-2020 fellow. Just to ask you to kind of respond to that same prompt that Sarah just responded to.
Well, Sarah summed it up pretty well, so I don't know what more I can say, Wally. First, I would say Wally is the best, hands down. He made this process easy. I'm a type of person who's not used to dealing with groups. I'm kind of a solo artist. I kind of good at just giving direction. I'm not a good group person, even though I'm a coach. But anyway, I kind of fell into this by accident, I think. Wally showed up in our office, and I had a meeting with him and my CEO, and they looked at me and said, "You're going to be in this class," which was probably the best thing that ever happened to me, because it is dealing with what I deal with on a regular basis, workforce development, and I also oversee our reentry projects. So once I got into the class and I saw what we were doing, I fell in love with the class. My cohorts are the best that I could probably ever work with in a general group. We had some very good conversations. I met some very good people, and the presenters that we had opened my mind up to help me be a better director in the position I am in now. So I think it definitely helped my leadership skills. It helped me to understand the importance of collaboration, which I always believed in, but it also gave me the capabilities to start reaching out to other people that I possibly wouldn't have reached out to before. Unfortunately, when we got really in the groove of our project, COVID hit, which was real trying for us, because we had pretty much got a real groove with our project, and then COVID hit, and we still had a project deadline. We still had project guidelines to meet. And I think what happens was, with that COVID hitting, it actually made us work even better in the sense of coming up with different ways to make sure that our project worked, because we were not able to meet each other. We were not able to go to prisons, but we were lucky and fortunate enough that we did a lot of hard work in the beginning, like he kind of always stated, get that out the way. And at the end, it was just basically putting our project together. Where I can say right now with our project, we're currently in the process of implementing our project, shockingly enough, into 2 institutions right now. Our project was basically trying to get virtual, what we're doing right now, into the prison setting. I found out by being in prisons, a lot of guys, before they get out, have never seen computers, never had access to technology, and we want to bring that technology into prisons prior to them getting out, so they'll be one step further when they get into, back into society. So it was very fun. It was challenging, but at the end of the day, I can say nothing bad about this. I think it's one of the best experiences I ever had.
Thank you, Jared. Can you just share a little bit about what you do at Fathers and Family Support Center?
Yeah, currently I'm a director of reentry and employment. So again, I oversee all our employment, and then I also do reentry. I teach classes at 3 state institutions about family reunification and life skills, and then I also go to the federal prison. So I constantly recruit people to come back to society and convince them that there is a job market, and then try to find them livable ways to work with.
Thank you. And just to toot the horn of that project even more a little bit, that project to bring digital training, job training, behavioral health support, life skills support into prisons just got over $1 million in grant funding, and the approval of the Missouri Department of Corrections to start expanding into more of their prison facilities. So really, really powerful. And the Impact Fellows were a piece of that puzzle. They helped. The project was kind of started. Haley over at Launch Code had started getting it moving, and the Impact Fellows really helped move it forward. The big piece there was Once COVID hit, nobody could get into prisons, and all of a sudden, digital delivery of prison program and prison support became a you all were perfectly poised to deliver that. Absolutely. So thank you for that, Jarrett. Dana, I'm going to hand it over to you. Dana is a current Impact Fellow. So in the middle of her project and project group. So a slightly different perspective, but just Dana, if you want to share a little bit, we appreciate it.
Thank you, Wally. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dana Williams-Reed. I am, as Wally said, currently in the program in the 2020-2021, probably very first virtual cohort from beginning to end. Eventually, we will have some time, maybe a happy hour in the park, who knows? But we have not met each other. So it has been very seamless, and kudos to Wally and his team for making this such an amazing experience. So I'm gonna kind of get into what do we do? You know, what does my Friday look like? And so you will experience listening to a number of different community partners and having some of those uncomfortable conversations and asking those uncomfortable questions. And it's okay, you can do that. Also, you will see some of these smaller organizations that you may not have had an opportunity to come across. And yes, we have a number of wonderful large organizations, but the reason why I chose to be a part of Impact Fellows was because of my focus and my desire to make a change and to make an impact in the community. In a former position, I worked in the community and worked with the community quite often. Father Support was one of my clients at a branch that I ran. So kudos to Jarrett and Halbert Sullivan for all the great work that they do. But those are organizations that some people wouldn't hear about. So being involved in Impact Fellows allows you to connect with these great community partners. And as soon as you think that you have made this election in December, guess what? You're going to do what I did. I changed because I heard something else. And I said, oh my God, that's my passion. And that's the direction that I want to go in because I can connect to those things. So don't feel like you have to make a decision right away. But definitely in the first 5 months, you are going to be enlightened. You are going to have some emotions that you're going to feel like, whoa, I didn't feel this before. I wouldn't think that I would feel this before. So, but after, going through this process, and right now we're writing our actual piece of the program that we're writing on. We're pulling that all together, and you connect with an amazing group of people, collaboration, connection. Some of the things that I wrote down, being enlightened, are just some of the things that you will definitely experience in this program. And if I had to leave one tip for you all, is to bring your true self to this program. If you bring yourself, your true self, you will definitely get something out of it.
I love that sentiment about bringing your true self. I think especially this year, going through all of this kind of together as a cohort, while we can only connect on Zoom, we also have this shared kind of trauma of this year. And it feels like this cohort has been a space for folks to be able to connect about that a little bit in ways. So I really want to say thank you, especially to this year's cohort, for working with us, for being open to the virtual space and really maximizing that. We've had some amazing opportunities. The nice thing about the virtual space is it's really easy to get people to come talk to us, right? Because they can just sit at their desk. I mean, when we thought about COVID, we had Alex Garza, the head of the regional task force. We had Serena Mohammed, the head of the regional response team. That's between those two, that's all the hospitals, all the public health departments, and the nonprofit sector, all their collaboration, Prepare SDL around COVID, right? They sat down with the fellows personally and told them not just the lines that they're telling, when they do their media appearances, but the Impact Fellow space is a confidential space, so they get to hear, what are your actual challenges? What are you actually thinking about? What's on your desk? Why is this not working? And they get to hear the real story and jump in on some of that. So thank you very, very much for that, Dana. I appreciate that. And with that, What I would like to do is give folks a chance to go ahead and ask some questions. If there's anything we haven't covered, if there's anything you're wondering about, just feel free to unmute and ask a question if you'd like. Unless we've covered it all, but I doubt that.
I'll ask a question.
Right.
How do you select your project? So it sounds like you do a lot of learning, and then do you just get together with your cohort and pitch ideas? Do you have some guidance like from you, Wally, or how does that work?
Good question. So what happens is I consider it my job. During those first 5 months, there's two things that I want to do for the cohort. Number one, I want to gel the cohort together, right? That means a lot of work together around creating a real racial equity lens. We bring in Crossroads Anti-Racism to do that for a full day. Some shared language around public values. But then the other piece, once the group is kind of cohesive, is I'm bringing in these experts, which is a smorgasbord of what's happening in the region. Once we get to start getting close to the end of that process, I'm going to start doing some exercises with the fellows, with the cohort, where we, for instance, do anonymous polling. Hey, this thing, does that sound interesting to you? Is this something that you'd be interested in? Yes, no, maybe, want to find out more. Then we start maybe some of the projects where a number of fellows express interest. We start inviting those folks back to dig in a little deeper and let fellows know what exactly that project might look like. I have also had fellows bring projects to the table themselves. During the healthcare project, we had somebody that had really powerful connections to the County Department of Health. And they said the County Department of Health needs a equity manual for how to deal with equity internally as an institution. And they kind of brought that project to the fellowship, and they pitched it themselves, and they got 4 or 5 fellows on board to do that. But it's a process that involves conversations, reach out to community organizations. But here's the important part. It's really important to me. I'm not going to force projects on anyone. If you're working on a project, I want it to be because you felt like that project was going to be interesting, impactful, and something that connects to your passion. That's a really important part of the puzzle. So it's really up to the fellows with a lot of facilitation and help from me. So I hope that answers your question. Yeah, I'm not forcing anybody to do anything. The fellows kind of say collectively, hey, there's enough interest in this project. Let's bring that person back and dig a little deeper. Now that we've heard a little more, do we have 4 or 5 fellows that are like, yes, I'm committed to doing this? Okay, there's one, and we kind of, and it's a pretty organic process. I can't describe it precisely because it looks a little different every year. So yeah, good. Thank you for that question. I hope I answered it. Other questions? Margot, go ahead.
I'm just curious how many fellows and how many projects each year?
So the fellows, generally there's between 15 and 20 fellows, which means generally somewhere between 3 and 4 projects. I consider a project group probably no less than 5, no more than 8 is best. You get less than 5, you start to have too few people kind of sharing the work. You get more than 8, and it's really easy for people to just kind of coast and sit on the sidelines, and the groups get a little unmanageable in terms of scheduling, because once you get into the project time, not only is there the program scheduled time that you saw in the schedule that I'm officially doing, but each project group schedules their own work time independently as well, and they do that based on their own schedules. That's become much easier with virtual meetings now, right? Even if we're in person, we're going to keep a lot of virtual pieces of the puzzle because that's made working together and working collaboratively so much easier. Although I've had groups in the past, they did a dinner party every week, and they all got together over dinner and did their work over dinner and drinks. Each group is different, and so that's up to them. Good. All right. Any other questions out there? Very good. So here's what I'm going to do for the very last piece of this puzzle. I would like each of you to take a find either your phone or open up another window in your browser and go to menti.com. That's MENTI.com, and enter the code. It'll ask you for a code. Enter the code 8137 1432, and I'm going to put that into chat here as well. So that's your code to enter. And oh, let's open up voting here. There we go. So this what it's opening up here is a word cloud page. You can enter three. You have three options or chances to enter. Here's the question. And can you all see that now? Okay. If St. Louis City had $100 million in extra funding next year, what should be the top funding priorities? Imagine we filled our budget gap. We've done all the deferred maintenance, right? We've got $100 million to fulfill our St. Louis dreams. What should be those budget priorities? So you can, where should we invest this kind of money if we had it in St. Louis?
Could you repeat the menti.com spelling, please?
Absolutely. MENTI.com. And then go to that code, or just enter that code that is in the chat. MENTI.com. All right. And I'm not seeing those answers pop up. Are you all in there and entering answers? Are you? I want to make sure. There it is. Okay. All right. And I'm going to share my screen here. So what we're seeing is education, healthcare, clean energy, workforce development, relationship building, youth development, talking, polarization. Okay. All right. So let's take, we're getting a few more here. Education, youth, let's see. Let's take those top three that I'm seeing there, and we're going to put those. Matthew, I'm going to ask you for just a second to talk about those other benefits of joining while I set up the next slide.
Hi, everybody. I'm Matthew Kearns. I am Wally's teammate at Focus. I am the director of the Emerging Leaders Program, and I also am the director of alumni and member relations. So when you join Focus, it's more than just your participation in the Impact Fellows or Emerging Leaders, but it's joining a whole network and community of leaders across the region. And in our almost 25 years of existence, we have over 10,000 program participants and alumni, and that's across the entire region. And what we do is we bring those folks back together for things like thought leadership dinners. We have a different panel series so you can learn more. We have a focus on policy series. We have a focus on diversity series. We also do one-offs. The other day we did one specifically for with a philanthropist who wanted to talk to small not-for-profits and talk to them about their tactics and strategies for giving away their money. So we really are bringing people together and living our mission at Focus, which is simple and three parts. We educate leaders, we connect leaders, and we facilitate important conversations for the region as a neutral convener. So what that means is we don't take a position on anything, and the only thing we do take a position on is race. And we at Focus believe that everything we do is working every day to strive towards racial equity and a diverse region and community for us all to live in and be happy. So
thank you, Matthew.
There's lots of reasons to join us.
Perfect. All right. So I have taken your answers, relationship building, clean energy, workforce development, education, youth development, and healthcare. And I've got our next Mentimeter slide. So you can, again, go to menti.com and use that code. Now you've got that $100 million and you get to divide it up by percentage between these priorities. How would you spend that money? So you can actually assign, this is a 100 points assignation, so you can assign by percentage what you would spend money on. While you're doing this, I want to point out that this is not just an exercise in theory. As many of you may have heard, St. Louis is going to be getting approximately somewhere between $450 and $500 million in federal stimulus money next year. If we look at our budget deficit that the St. Louis City is under, it's somewhere between this year, somewhere between 25 and 90 million, depending on how you calculate that. There's a lot more we need to spend on COVID support, on addressing issues, especially with access to healthcare in the city. But even if we do all of that, we're going to have 100 or 200 million left over for a dream project. This is real. St. Louis is going to have this money, and I believe we're going to have a mayor in place that allows some community input on how this money is spent. So this is a very real question. All right, so we've got here education so far is the winner with 22%, relationship building 21%, healthcare 18%, clean energy, youth development, workforce development. You're spreading relatively evenly. That's interesting. So then the last thing that I want to do is I would like to open it up to all of you who made these suggestions. What is it in these areas that you'd like to see invested in? Education is huge, right? There's a million different things you could spend money on in education. Healthcare is huge. What are some of those things that you were thinking of when you considered spending money in these areas? Make the case for money going to your favorite cause.
I have more questions.
Okay, good.
It's related to this. How do you get potential projects? That's Wally.
Hi, Wally.
He just woke up from his nap.
All right.
He's going to disrupt. Okay. How do you decide on projects and organizations to bring in?
How do I decide on projects and organizations to bring in? It's a real combination of things. I am constantly out there in the community, meeting with folks. So number one, I'm looking for places where change is happening and there's room and space for folks to come in and help make change, including a willing community partner that's willing to say, hey, yeah, you've got this brain power. I'm going to work with you in order to bring that into whatever we're working on. And it has to kind of have that racial equity base, and it has to be something that the fellows are interested in. So it's a real balancing act between my knowledge and connections out in the community. I'm constantly learning. I also hear from fellows every year. Somebody's like, hey, have you heard from so-and-so, or have you talked to so-and-so? And I will go out and I will make those connections because that's what I do and say, hey, yeah, absolutely. This is great. Let's bring that in. So I source those from a lot of different places, including the fellows themselves, the community connections that I have, and all of the Focus alumni, the various programs. I am constantly hearing about things going on in the community. And so that's really, it's again, it's a somewhat organic process, but it's really a balance about making sure we're hitting what's in the fellows' interest, making sure we're finding organizations that are making change and willing to bring a group in to help to do that, making sure that it's something that's really current and on point. So for instance, this year we ended up having projects on food injustice. That one's going to be really interesting. That's what Dana's working on. And this is going well beyond emergency food support, which is hugely important, right? We're talking food pantries and things like that. Very, very important. But this project wants to go further, look at the structural issues, right? Go upstream as opposed to just plucking the babies out of the stream, right? Why are the babies getting chucked into the stream? So looking at food apartheid, which is the term that Tasha Phoenix uses instead of food deserts, because she says deserts are natural and beautiful. This has nothing to do with a desert. This is about public policy creating essentially food apartheid. It's about Black land ownership, agricultural engagement and ownership by the Black community, structural racism inside of agricultural support programs, especially governmental programs, all of that kind of stuff. And that was a small nonprofit that's just starting up that I found out about and talked to them and brought them in. And several fellows just kind of said, hey, we love this. This small nonprofit is working and getting its feet under itself in these projects, and we're here to help make that happen. Good. All right. Well, we are close to the end of time. Does anybody want to make a case for their funding strategy?
Yeah, I'm gonna go for it.
All right. Thank you, Lacey.
So I pitched relationship building, which is huge and broad and vague. But what's really been weighing on me recently, well, last few years, is how polarized we've become and how we've bought into this idea that we can't talk anymore. You know, we have differences of opinion, which is ridiculous. I don't know when we decided we couldn't keep talking about things. So I'm very interested in educational programs that teach people how to have these difficult conversations, and then setting up some kind of platform where they can do that. I've been working on some stuff in the background myself in that realm. But I will also say, because I like to flip-flop on issues all the time, that as I look at this chart more, I've shifted a little bit, and I'm very interested in, you know, if we did some infrastructure, clean energy, then that would spill over into workforce development, of course, and might spill over into youth development if we did some educational things, teaching kids about clean energy, and then that would be a fun STEM thing. So the more I look at this chart, the more I'm like, oh no, these are all, we should do them all, of course.
Well, and that's the lovely part in some ways about these projects, is it's all interconnected, right? So we could do education, relationship building, and clean energy like in one big ball, absolutely. With a program that brings students out to learn about clean energy, connect with people from all over the city. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that, Lacey. That was well done. And what you illustrated really nicely is sometimes how hard it is to try to actually narrow yourself down to one thing, right? Absolutely. Yeah, good. Anybody else want to weigh in on that? Margot, go ahead.
Yeah, I ended up putting, I put parental leave and early education and housing inequity for mine. So those weren't even on there, but
sorry about that.
It's okay. But that's from this perspective of relationship building in a very different way than what Lacey was describing.
Okay.
Again. He loves to do this when I'm on a Zoom. Okay. Mainly thinking about how do we support families in our community at the beginning when brains are being built and all of this. So, and I'm vice president of Missouri Association for Infant and Early Childhood Mental Health, which is why I asked, how do you get to be a community partner? So one of the ideas we're working on that is very much equity focused is connecting the justice and this is just how it goes in my house.
That's okay. One of the things I love about Zoom is that it has normalized and accepted all of this kind of stuff. So no problem at all. We have lots of fellows that bring their family members into the day, and I have to say it's a bright spot in a lot of cases. But yeah, early childhood, especially early education, huge area of change in the region. Right now, right? We passed Proposition R last year. There's a lot of talk about how that money is going to get dispersed. There's a huge difference between how early childhood is done in the county versus the city, which doesn't make a lot of sense, right? There's a lot of interesting stuff there. And if you're part of an organization that's doing really interesting work, no matter what happens from here on out, let's sit down, let's have a conversation. And if we have some fellows that are interested in that, we'll bring you in and do that. This is exactly how it happens.
And I want to say to Lacey, have you heard of Our Community Listens? I was in Yami's cohort, actually, Wally.
Okay.
So,
You're on. Yep.
It's called Our Community Listens. Is that what you said?
Yeah, sounds like, and I've heard of that. I don't know it though. So that's interesting.
I'm gonna write it down.
And here it is. This is exactly it. This is my, like, we just, just with a few of us and doing a little short exercise, and all of a sudden we're making connections and learning new things and learning about new organizations. This is how it happens. So with that, I am going to respect everyone's time and say that I really appreciate everyone being here today. Are there any last minute questions, comments, any last things that our alums and current participants would like to add to the conversation? Last thoughts before we head out.
I'd just like to add, Wally, if you have further questions, you can reach out to Wally. You can reach out to me. We're both available through the Focus website, which is focus-stl.org.
Yeah, and I am one more time, I'm gonna just put a link in the chat. And that link is to a Google document that describes some of the projects from years past. So you can just read through and see what some of those projects actually looked like, who the fellows were that were on the project, who the community partner was, what those outcomes were. So that gives you just a little bit of more background information in terms of what those projects look like. And with that, thank you all for sharing your lunch hour with us. Really appreciate your being here. Big thank you to our alums and participants, Dana and Jared and Sarah, for being here today. And have a fantastic rest of your day. You are now officially past midday on hump day, so have a good weekend. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Wally. Have a good one.
Thanks, Dana. Bye.
Bye.
All right. Well, I think that went well.